Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. So today, as part of the live stream, I'm looking at the evil hero archetype. These are a series of dark heroes, and they're all mostly fiend types as well, who were used by the Supreme King, who was the dark version of Jane Yuki in Season 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. What happened was, initially, him and his friends ended up going to the Dark World because he was trying to find his friend Jesse to try and rescue him. But in the process, he had to protect his friends. In doing that, he had to face a number of these Dark World monsters, including Scab. He had to face even the Mad King and other monsters as well in duels. That affected his psychosis, and he became really dark and destructive. In the process of dueling, he ended up getting this evil persona and developed the evil heroes. Now, some of them are based on alternative versions of original heroes, and if that's the case, I'll actually specify what they are just so people understand. But I'm sure if you follow the series, you also already know what these do. The first card is Evil Hero Malicious Edge. It's a Earth Attribute Fiend type level 7 with 2,600 attack and 1,800 defense. The effect is if your opponent controls a monster, you can tribute summon this card face up with 1 tribute. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. It's essentially the same stat line as Elemental Hero Blade Edge. The difference and what makes it slightly better than Blade Edge is it gives you the option to summon this card with 1 monster if your opponent controls a monster on their field, whereas Blade Edge is just a pure piercing damage monster and it requires the 2 tributes. That's where this gets the benefit from. Elemental Hero Sinister Necrom. Evil Hero Sinister Necrom is a Dark Attribute Fiend type level 5 with 1,600 attack and 1,800 defense. Its effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 1 evil hero monster from your hand or deck, except Evil Hero Sinister Necrom. You can only use this effect of Evil Hero Sinister Necrom once per turn. This is the Evil Hero equivalent of Necroshade. Necroshade has the ability, whilst it's in the graveyard, to once let you normal summon an elemental hero without any sacrifices. So often it was used in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX to either summon Elemental Hero Neos or Blade Edge. Those were the typical targets for it. With this, it's able to special summon an evil hero either from the hand or the deck, which means you've got access to any of your evil heroes without the restrictions. As with Necroshade, that has to be purely from your hand. Evil Hero Adusted Gold is a Light Attribute Fiend level 4 with 2,100 attack and 800 defense. Its effect is you can discard this card to add 1 Dark Fusion, or 1 card that specifically lists Dark Fusion in its text from your deck to your hand, except Evil Hero Adusted Gold. You can only use this effect of Evil Hero Adusted Gold once per turn, and it cannot attack unless you control a fusion monster. So this is the Evil Hero version of Captain Gold. Captain Gold's effect is you basically discard it and you search for Skyscraper. If Skyscraper isn't on your field and you've summoned this card, it basically destroys itself. Whereas with this, it has the flexibility to bring out a Dark Fusion or a card with Dark Fusion. So you can go with the there's another card which is like the Evil Hero equivalent of Miracle Fusion. You have that flexibility, and also this doesn't destroy itself. It just simply cannot attack unless you've got a fusion monster on the field. So there's the improvements there. Evil Hero Infernal Gainer is a Earth Attribute Fiend type level 4 with 1,600 attack and 0 defense. Its effect is, during your main phase, you can banish this card from the field, then target 1 Fiend monster you control. That target can make a second attack during each battle phase, while you control it face up. Once per turn during your second standby phase, after this card was banished to activate this effect, you can special summon this card in attack position. This is really good when I think the Supreme used this against Jim Crook to let his Malicious Edge attack twice, and since that had piercing effect damage as well, it was able to, do more damage and get past his, I think he had a field spell up, which was like a sacred barrier to protect his rock-type monsters. Out of all the different heroes, it's one that doesn't have a counterpart. It's one of the unique ones specifically only for the Evil Hero archetype. Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy is a Dark Attribute Fiend type level 2 with 300 attack and 600 defense. It has the effect, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand in attack position. Once per turn, during the end phase, if this card were tributed this turn, to tribute summon a hero monster, you can draw one card. This is supposed to be like the Evil Hero version of Hero Kid. Hero Kid doesn't really have much of an effect other than when it's summoned from the graveyard, it special summons up to 2 copies of itself. This is better because you're able to instantly special summon this. You can actually tribute this to bring out your malicious Edge, and then also you're able to then draw an extra card. That provides the level of flexibility that you might need to run within the deck. The next card I will look at is actually one of the newest cards introduced within the game. It's Supreme King's Castle. It's their field spell. Its effect is you can fusion summon fusion monsters that must be special summoned with Dark Fusion with effects other than Dark Fusion. Once per turn during damage calculation, if your Fiend monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send one Evil Hero monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. Your monster gains 200 attack equal to the level of the monster, well, times the 200 until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. So what's great about this card is that you're able to summon your fusion monsters without having to use Dark Fusion. That is one of the bigger drawbacks to Dark Fusion. But the best part of the effect is during damage calculation, so this it could be either yours or your opponent's. When your Fiend type is involved in a battle, which most of the Evil Heroes are, you're able to just get rid of one of your cards, and then you're able to boost up your monster's attack points by, well, we'll have a look with Malicious Bane and Malicious Fiend. They're both level 8s, so you could get up to 1,600 additional attack points. Pair that with Malicious Fiend or Malicious Edge, I mean, you're looking at a 4,000 odd attack monster, and that's not something you can easily overcome. Now we're going to move on to the various fusion monsters. Evil Hero Malicious Fiend is it's a fire attribute Fiend type fusion monster. It's a level 8 with 3,500 attack and 2,100 defense. It requires as fusion materials both Evil Hero Malicious Edge plus 1 level 6 or higher Fiend type monster, and it must be special summoned with Dark Fusion. During your opponent's battle phase, all monsters they control are changed to face up attack position, and each monster they control must attack this card if able. What's really good about this is it forces your opponent to either out this card immediately, otherwise they don't have the ability to then summon monsters if they can't get over this card, as they'll just be forced into their own destruction during the next turn. Imagine it being something like having a continuous battle mania within effect. And for a stat lineup, 3,500 attack isn't bad. Evil Hero Malicious Bane is a Dark Attribute Fiend type fusion monster. It's level 8 with 3,000 attack and defense, and you must fusion it with 1 Evil Hero monster and 1 level 5 or higher monster. It must be special summoned with Dark Fusion, and it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. During your main phase, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to this card's. Also, this card gains 200 attack for each monster destroyed this way. Also, you cannot declare an attack for the rest of this turn except with hero monsters. You can only use this effect of Evil Hero Malicious Bane once per turn. What is really good about this card is it's got protection from all forms of destruction, both battle and card effects. It's able to instantly, essentially, Raigeki your opponent's field, because most monsters won't meet this stat lineup. And the other thing is that it gains a boost from each monster, so the more your opponent stacks their field, the more they're going to lose their monsters. Of course, it doesn't work against monsters that are set, so that's the one downside of it. But, you know, you're going to be using mostly hero monsters within your deck anyway, so the downside of this to only let hero monsters attack isn't a problem. The next card is Evil Hero Wild Cyclone. It's a level 8 Earth Attribute Fiend type fusion monster with 1900 attack and 2300 defense. It requires Elemental Hero Avian and Elemental Hero Wildheart to fuse, and must be special summoned with Dark Fusion and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, destroy all face-down spell and trap cards your opponent controls. Okay, so this is the variation of Wild Wingman. It's the Evil Hero version. And firstly, it basically means your opponent cannot use any of their back row during the battle phase when it attacks. And also, if you do manage to get the battle damage in, you shut down all of your opponent's spell and traps. I would say the downside of this card is that, you know, your opponent can then activate any of the spell and traps they want, provided that they can be activated during that time. So they might still get the benefit from some of those effects. This is better than Wild Wingman because that it requires you to discard a card to destroy a spell or trap. Whereas if your opponent has cards which don't work for certain timings, that's it, they lose all of those cards. Evil Hero Dark Gaia is a Earth Attribute Fiend type fusion, level 8 with question mark attack and 0 defense. It requires a Fiend type monster and 1 Rock type monster, and it must be special summoned with Dark Fusion and cannot be special summoned by other ways. The original attack of this card is equal to the combined original attack of the fusion material monsters used to fusion summon it. When this card declares an attack, you can change all defense position monsters your opponent controls to face up attack position. Flip effects are not activated at this time. So actually this is really good, and it was the key card that the Supreme King used against Jim Cook to fuse his, I think it was his Infernal Gainer plus Jim Cook's, I think it was a giant Gaia plate or something like that. And it became a 4,400 attack monster, and he was able to just direct attack and beat Jim that way. This is very flexible in what it needs to do. It can become incredibly powerful. You can use your opponent's resources, and being able to change all of their defensive monsters to attack means you're guaranteed to do battle damage. Evil Hero Lightning Golem is the equivalent of Elemental Hero Thunder Giant. It's a level 6 light attribute fiend type fusion monster with 2,400 attack and 1,500 defense. It requires both Elemental Hero Sparkman and Clayman as fusion materials, and it must be special summoned with Dark Fusion and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn, you can target one monster on the field and destroy that target. The best thing about this is, unlike Thunder Giant, which requires you to discard a card, and it can be only up to a maximum of its attack of 2,400, this just straight away just destroys a monster on the field. Can be your own if it has a trigger effect, or can be your opponent's, and it doesn't have a discard cost to it either. You just, once per turn, can just get rid of a card. You know, it's brilliant. Evil Hero Infernal Wing is a fire attribute fiend type fusion monster with 2,100 attack and 1,200 defense. It requires both Elemental Hero Avian and Bestinatrix for fusion materials, and it must be first special summoned with Dark Fusion and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. When this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to either the attack or defense, whichever is higher, of the destroyed monster in the graveyard. The beauty of this card is it essentially lets you guaranteed to do the 2,100 points of damage or more, because first it involves piercing damage, and the other thing is you're going to obviously make your opponent take the effect damage, which for the stat they have the highest stat lineup for, whether that be the attack or the defense. This is the only hero that has 3 variations of it. You've got Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, you've got Elemental Hero Phoenix Enforcer, and now you've got an Evil Hero Inferno Wing. I think it's quite unusual and different, and it does make it look quite very evil, and I love the design of it. It was the first of the new fusion monsters that he used as the Supreme King against Jim Cook. And the final fusion monster is Evil Hero Infernal Sniper. This is a fire attribute fiend type level 6 with 2000 attack and 2500 defense. Its materials are Elemental Hero Clayman and Burstinatrix. It must be special summoned with Dark Fusion, and it cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card cannot be destroyed by spell cards, and during each of your standby phases, you can inflict 1000 points of damage to your opponent. This card must be in face-up defense position to activate and to resolve this effect. Okay, so out of, I'm going to say even it wasn't difficult for this card to be better than Rampart Blaster. For anyone who isn't aware about the technicalities that Rampart Blaster has and why it's as annoying as it is for an Elemental Hero fusion, what Rampart Blaster does is it allows you to do 1000 points of damage when it's in defense, whilst it's sitting in defense mode, but it can only do that when there's no monsters on your opponent's field. It's not that it's a case that it attacks directly. It's a case of, regardless, it can only ever do that, and it's very specific for what it does. This, on the other hand, has full protection from spell cards. So this was actually used by the Supreme King against Axel Brody to protect against his Blaze Accelerator and the Tri-Blaze Accelerator, which were both continuous spell cards, to protect his life points. And also, this guarantees 1000 points of damage, unlike Rampart Blaster. So we're just going to have a quick look at the different other cards. There's a couple of other ones. You've got Dark Fusion. There we go. We've got Dark Fusion is there. Fusion summon 1 Fiend Fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials. Your opponent cannot target it with card effects this turn. What's brilliant about this card is it provides your monsters with protection, just even if it's for a turn, as this is really useful, whereas, you consider things like Miracle Fusion, Polymerization, they don't grant your monsters any level of protection, and that's why this card is often considered to be much better than even some of the other cards. And, of course, you've got the version of Miracle Fusion as well, which is called Dark Calling. It says to fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck that must be special summoned with Dark Fusion by banishing the fusion materials listed on it from your hand and or graveyard. This is treated as a fusion summon with Dark Fusion. So, what do you think of the evil heroes? I personally love them, and I think I would love to see more support from them. Whatever you think, leave those in the comments. Make sure you're enjoying the live stream. Anything you want to ask, feel free to, and help to support the charity if you can. I know it's been a tough year, and we're going to get through it together.